The galaxy had grown used to wars, but this one was different. It began not with fleets clashing in the dark void, but with whispers about Earth, a small blue planet that had defied empires far older and stronger. Many alien races believed the humans were reckless, too fragile to survive in the vast cold of space. Yet humans kept surprising them, bending the rules of science and rewriting the balance of power in ways no one could predict. Among those who had heard the stories was a young warrior from a proud alien clan. She had been raised to believe humans were nothing more than a dangerous rumor, a species too stubborn to surrender, too wild to be tamed. But when her people declared war on Earth, she discovered the truth with her own eyes. The battlefield was chaos, filled with the thunder of weapons, burning ships, and the cries of soldiers who had never known defeat until now. She remembered the moment clearly. Her squad had been ordered to storm a ruined human outpost, its walls scorched and broken. Smoke curled into the sky, and the ground shook beneath the weight of artillery fire. She had expected to find terrified survivors begging for mercy. Instead, she found a single human standing in the rubble, his face streaked with dirt and blood, yet his eyes calm and steady. That calmness unsettled her more than any weapon ever could. The clash was fast and brutal. She fought with the precision her people were known for, her body moving like a blade in the dark. But no matter how swift her strikes, the human met her each time, not with fear, but with a strange defiance. He moved as though he carried the weight of his entire planet on his shoulders, every step fueled not just by survival, but by something stronger, something she could not name. And then in the middle of that fight, fate shifted. An explosion tore through the outpost walls and debris rained down. She was thrown to the ground, her armor cracked, her breath shallow. She tried to rise, but pain burned through her side. The battlefield roared around her, but in that moment she felt utterly alone. She expected death to take her, cold and merciless. But instead, the human was there. His hand reached out, strong and steady, pulling her from the rubble. She wanted to resist, to push him away. Her training screamed that he was the enemy, that she should spit in his face rather than accept his help, yet her body betrayed her. The heat inside her chest spread, a strange fire burning where no blade had touched. She looked into his eyes and saw not victory or cruelty, but something that broke every rule she had ever been taught. Compassion. He spoke, his voice rough but steady. She barely understood his words, but the meaning reached her through tone alone. He wasn't saving her for advantage nor for interrogation. He was saving her because she was alive, because life itself mattered to him in a way her people had forgotten. As he carried her away from the crumbling outpost, she felt the fire grow stronger. At first, she thought it was injury, the heat of blood and broken bone, but when she touched her skin, there was no wound. The fire was deeper, spreading like lightning through her veins. Her vision blurred, and she gasped for air. Her body trembled as though it no longer obeyed her. She looked at him again, confusion mixing with fear. "Human," she whispered through clenched teeth, her voice breaking. "What have you done to me? My body, it is on fire." The human only tightened his grip, his jaw set against the chaos around them. He didn't answer, not yet, but something in his expression told her the truth, that whatever had begun between them, it was only the start of something far greater than war. The alien warrior struggled against the fire racing through her veins. Every step the human took, as he carried her, seemed to make it worse. Her body shivered uncontrollably, though the air was not cold. She had known pain before, the sharp sting of blades, the crushing impact of explosions, but this was different. This was not pain alone. It was as if something inside her had been awakened, something wild and untamed. Her people had always warned of humans, not because of their weapons, but because of something no one could measure. They called it the human effect, a force that made entire empires uneasy. Some dismissed it as superstition. But now, with the human's arms around her and the fire in her chest refusing to fade, she understood the warning. The human moved quickly, through the ruins, his steps sure despite the chaos. Around them, the night sky was filled with burning ships and distant flashes of war. The ground shook with distant bombardments, but he seemed unaffected, focused only on carrying her to safety. His breath was heavy but steady, his arms strong as if the weight of an alien warrior was nothing at all. She stared at him, her lips parting to speak, but no words came. Every time she tried to summon her voice, the fire surged, stealing her strength. She hated the feeling of weakness, hated needing him. But each time she looked into his face, she saw something that silenced her protests. Determination, yes, but also care, as though her survival mattered more than his own. Finally, they reached what remained of a bunker. Its walls were cracked, the roof half collapsed, but it provided shelter from the chaos above. He lowered her gently onto a slab of stone, his movements careful, almost protective. She felt the cold ground beneath her back, but the fire inside her only grew hotter. Her skin glowed faintly red, veins pulsing with strange light. She gritted her teeth, clawing at the stone as if it could ground her. The human crouched beside her, his hand hovering near her face. His voice was low, steady but urgent. "Stay with me. You're going to be fine." She shook her head weakly. "No, this is not injury. This is something else. My body is changing." Her words broke into ragged gasps. "What have you done, human?" He frowned, confusion flickering in his eyes. His hands pressed against her side, searching for wounds. But there was no blood, no broken bones. Her body was whole. Yet the heat radiating from her skin was undeniable. He pulled back, his expression darkening, as though he feared he had triggered something he could not control. For a moment, silence hung between them. The roar of war outside was distant, muffled by the bunker walls. All she could hear was her own breathing, fast and shallow, and his heart, steady and strong, as if beating for both of them. She turned her head, locking eyes with him. "Why?" she whispered. "Why save me? I am your enemy. My people would have killed you without hesitation." His answer was simple, almost too simple. "Because you're alive. That's enough." The word struck her harder than any blade. Her people fought for conquest, for pride, for honor, but never for life itself. To hear such a thing from an enemy was more terrifying than death. It stirred something inside her she could not control, feeding the fire already consuming her. She clenched her fists, her body trembling as if it were no longer her own. The fire rose higher, coursing through her blood, her bones, her very breath. Her eyes glowed faintly, alien pupils narrowing as though her body was reshaping itself. She gasped, her voice breaking into a whisper. "It is not only fire. It feels like life is rewriting me." The human stared at her, his jaw tight. He didn't speak, but deep in his eyes there was a flicker of realization. Something had begun when he touched her, something that neither of them understood. And though the war raged outside in that bunker, the true battle was only beginning, inside her very soul. The alien warrior lay trembling, her chest rising and falling in sharp, uneven breaths. The fire inside her refused to fade, spreading further, coiling through her muscles and into her bones. She clenched her teeth, fighting to contain the strange energy that pulsed through her veins. It felt as if she had swallowed a star, its heat reshaping her from within. The human watched closely, his expression serious but calm. He had seen wounds, sickness, and even radiation burns during the war, but never something like this. Her body seemed untouched, yet alive with some invisible storm. Every time her skin glowed faintly red, he reached out, ready to steady her, but she pushed his hands away, pride refusing to let her show weakness. "Stay back," she hissed, though her voice was strained. "This fire, it does not belong to me. If it consumes me, it will consume everything near me." He shook his head slowly. "I don't care. I'm not leaving you." Her eyes widened, disbelief flickering across her face. Among her people, weakness was death, and those who faltered were abandoned without hesitation. For him to stay, despite danger, felt impossible. She wanted to call him a fool, to curse him, yet the fire in her heart grew stronger, answering the strange bond she could not deny. Suddenly the ground shook as a distant explosion rumbled above. Dust and shards of stone rained down into the bunker. The human shielded her with his body, his arms protecting her from the falling debris. For a moment she forgot the fire, staring up at him as he held her without hesitation. His weight pressed, close, steady, and grounding, his heartbeat strong against her own erratic pulse. The shaking ended, leaving only silence and their shared breath. Her cheeks burned hotter, and she forced herself to turn away, hiding her face in the shadow of her hair. "Why do you keep doing this?" she whispered. "Why risk yourself for me?" His reply was quiet, almost too quiet to hear. "Because I can't let you die." The words lingered in her chest longer than the fire itself. She felt the heat shift, not burning but changing, as though reshaping her from the inside out. The glow in her skin dimmed for a moment, and she exhaled a long, shaky breath. She thought the storm was passing, until her vision blurred and her body convulsed with sudden force. A pulse of energy burst from her chest, slamming against the bunker walls. The stone cracked, dust exploding into the air. The human staggered back, shielding his face, but his eyes never left hers. The glow in her body had spread fully now, her veins shining like rivers of molten light. She cried out, clutching her arms, but the fire had no mercy. He rushed forward, catching her shoulders as she trembled violently. His grip was firm but gentle. "Look at me," he demanded, his voice cutting through the chaos. "You're stronger than this. Don't fight. Control it." Her eyes snapped open, glowing with unnatural brilliance. For a moment, she saw her reflection in his gaze. Not a soldier, not an alien warrior, but something else entirely. A being caught between two worlds, burning with power she did not understand. She gasped, her voice raw. "This is not my strength. This is yours. It began the moment you touched me." The word startled him, but before he could answer, another explosion shook the bunker. This time it wasn't distant. The enemy had found them. Shadows moved at the broken entrance, armored figures stepping into the dim light. Her people. The alien soldiers raised their weapons, their glowing blades aimed directly at the human. She could see their faces, cold, merciless, ready to kill without hesitation. But before they could strike, the fire inside her surged again, hotter than ever. Her body lifted slightly from the ground, her hair flowing as if caught in invisible wind. Her people froze, eyes wide with shock. They had never seen this before. She had never felt it before. And in that moment she realized the fire was not meant to destroy her. It was meant to protect him. The alien soldiers filled the bunker entrance, their armor shining with the cold glow of their weapons. Their eyes locked on the human, and their orders were clear. Kill the enemy. Leave no survivors. But what froze them in place was not the human himself, but her. The young warrior rose slowly from the stone floor, her body glowing with streams of light that pulsed like fire beneath her skin. Her breath came in sharp bursts, her chest rising as though each inhale carried a storm. The air around her shimmered, the heat warping the shadows on the cracked walls. Her people whispered among themselves, confusion breaking through their discipline. None of them had ever seen such a transformation. They knew her as one of their strongest, but this power, this fire, was something beyond their blood, beyond their history. The human stood close beside her, his fists clenched but his expression steady. He had no weapon left, nothing but his own determination. He glanced at her, ready to fight, but unsure if even he could stop what was happening inside her. Her gaze shifted from the soldiers to him. For a moment the fire calmed, as if it recognized him. Her voice trembled, half fear and half command. "Do not move. Whatever happens, do not leave my side." The soldiers advanced, weapons raised. Their commander barked a sharp order, his voice echoing against the stone. "Step away from the human now. Whatever sickness burns in you, we will contain it." She felt anger rise, stronger than fear. Contain? They would sooner kill her than understand her. Her body shook, but she forced her voice to stay strong. No. You will not touch him. Her people hesitated. Never had she spoken against them. Never had she stood between them and their target. The commander's eyes narrowed, his grip tightening on his blade. You would betray us? For him? The fire surged at his words, flaring brighter through her veins. She staggered, clutching her chest, but the human caught her arm, steadying her once again. His touch was like an anchor, pulling her back from the edge. The fire did not vanish, but it shifted, bending to her will for the first time. She looked up at her people, her eyes glowing like burning stars. This is not betrayal. This is survival. And if you attack him, you will face me. The silence that followed was heavy. Her people had never known her to bluff, never known her to hesitate. And now, with her entire body lit like a living flame, even the commander faltered. The human stepped forward, his voice calm but sharp. I don't want to fight you, but I won't let you take her. The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. To hear defiance from a human was expected, but to see one standing beside a warrior transformed into something unexplainable shook them more than any blade. The commander finally growled, raising his weapon. Then you leave us no choice. The moment the blade moved, the fire erupted from her body in a wave of energy. It surged outward, crashing against the soldiers like a storm. The bunker shook violently, stones cracking and falling from the ceiling. The alien soldiers were thrown back, their armor glowing as if scorched by invisible heat. The human shielded his eyes, but even through the blaze he could see her, standing tall at the center of the storm. Her hair flowed wildly, her silhouette burning like the figure of a goddess. She was no longer simply a warrior. She was something new, something neither side could explain. When the fire faded, the soldiers lay scattered at the entrance, groaning, their weapons broken. The commander struggled to rise, his face pale, his eyes filled with both fear and rage. You are cursed, he spat. Whatever that human has done to you, it will destroy us all. Her chest still burned, but her voice was steady. No, it will destroy only those who stand in our way. The commander's glare locked on the human, and she stepped between them, her body still glowing faintly. In that moment, there was no doubt. She had chosen. The silence after the battle was heavy, broken only by the groans of the fallen soldiers. Dust hung thick in the air, drifting through the shafts of red light spilling from cracks in the bunker ceiling. The young alien warrior stood with her, chest still glowing faintly, her breath ragged. Her body trembled, not from weakness, but from the power that still burned inside her veins. The human stepped forward carefully, his hand brushing her arm. Are you all right? His voice was calm, but his eyes searched her face for answers. She nodded once, though her body betrayed her with another tremor. The fire hadn't left. It was quieter now, but alive, like embers smoldering under her skin. Every time she looked at him, it flared brighter, as if his presence fed it. She didn't understand it, and that terrified her more than the soldiers at her feet. The commander struggled to his knees, his armor cracked and smoking. His eyes burned, with fury as he glared at her. You are no longer one of us, you are marked. Whatever curse the human has placed upon you will spread. You will bring ruin to us all. His words cut deep. To be cast out was worse than death for her people. She opened her mouth to answer, but the human spoke first. She's not cursed, he said firmly. She's alive because she chose to, because she fought. The commander's face twisted with disgust. And because of you, human, you poison everything you touch. The words stung her in ways she couldn't explain. She had once believed the same, that humans were dangerous, reckless, a threat to order. But standing there now with the fire still pulsing in her chest, she knew the truth was far more complicated. If this was poison, why did it feel like strength? The human reached down, helping her to steady herself. She leaned on him, hating her weakness but unable to deny the comfort his touch gave her. Her people watched in silence, their weapons shattered, their commander broken, yet their loyalty to him still strong. The commander finally barked an order. Fall back. Report what you've seen. The council will decide her fate. The soldiers hesitated, their eyes lingering on her glowing body, fear etched across their faces. Then slowly they obeyed, dragging themselves out of the bunker, leaving the commander behind. He gave her one last look, his voice sharp as a blade. "When the council learns of this, you will be hunted, both of you." With that, he disappeared into the smoke, leaving only silence in his wake. The human exhaled, his shoulders heavy with relief and worry. "They'll come back," he said quietly, "and next time it won't just be a squad, it'll be an army." She lowered her head, her hands trembling against her chest. The fire still pulsed, stronger now, as if feeding on the tension. She whispered, more to herself than to him, "What am I becoming?" He crouched in front of her, forcing her to meet his eyes. "You're becoming stronger, and maybe this fire isn't meant to destroy you. Maybe it's meant to save you." His words struck something deep inside her, echoing louder than the commander's threats. For the first time, she wondered if the fire wasn't a curse at all, but a gift, one that only awakened because of him. Outside, the sound of distant ships filled the sky. Reinforcements were coming, faster than either of them wanted. She clenched, her fists, the fire sparking through her veins again, brighter than before. This time, it didn't feel like chaos. It felt like power waiting to be unleashed. She looked at the human, her voice firm despite the fear in her heart. "If they come for us, then I will fight. Not for them. Not for war. For you." His eyes widened slightly at her words, but he nodded, determination sharpening his expression. "Then we fight together." And for the first time since the fire had ignited inside her, she felt in control, not of the flames, but of her choice. The night sky burned with fire as fleets moved. Above the planet, the alien council had wasted no time. Reports of a warrior transformed by human touch spread quickly, whispered in every command chamber, twisted into stories of corruption and danger. To them, she was no longer a soldier. She was a threat that had to be erased before it spread. She and the human had taken refuge in the ruins outside the city. The crumbled walls gave little comfort, but they offered shadows to hide from patrols. She sat with her back against a stone pillar, her chest still glowing faintly beneath her cracked armor. The fire had not left her. It had grown, stretching, further with each passing hour. The human crouched nearby, watching the skies. His jaw was set, his eyes sharp, scanning every flicker of movement above. He had fought battles before, but never one like this. He knew an army was coming. Not just for Earth, but for her, and somehow they had to survive both. She broke the silence first. Her voice was low, carrying the weight of uncertainty. "My people will not stop. They believe this fire is poison. They will come with everything they have to end it." He turned, to her, his eyes steady. "Then we'll show them it isn't poison. We'll show them its power." Her lips parted, a bitter laugh escaping despite her fear. "You speak as if power is enough. You do not understand. My people do not fear weapons, they fear what they cannot control. And I cannot control this." She lifted her hand, and sparks of red light danced across her skin. The air shimmered as heat rolled off her palm. He didn't flinch. Instead, he reached out, covering her hand with his own. The sparks softened, the fire dimming as his touch steadied her. "Maybe you don't have to control it alone," he said. Her chest tightened at his words. The fire pulsed stronger, not as pain, but as something else. Something that responded to him. She could feel it now, a rhythm that matched his heartbeat, binding her to him in ways she couldn't explain. Before she could speak, the distant roar of engines cut through the air. Shadows fell across the ruins as dropships descended, their wings slicing the clouds. The ground shook as squads of armored soldiers poured out, their formation precise, their weapons glowing in the dark. She rose to her feet, her eyes fixed on the advancing army. The fire inside her surged, demanding release. Her people had called her cursed, but here and now she felt something entirely different. She felt chosen. The commander of the squad stepped forward, his voice amplified through his helmet. "Warrior, by order of the council, you are to be contained and purged. The human will be executed on sight. Do not resist." The human stood beside her, his stance unyielding despite the overwhelming force. "Guess they don't leave much room for negotiation," he muttered. She shook her head slowly, her eyes burning with light. "No, they never did." The soldiers raised their weapons as one, their glowing barrels aimed at her chest. For a heartbeat, the world was silent, waiting. Then the fire erupted. Her body lit like a star, flames of red and gold surging outward in a wave of heat and force. The ground cracked beneath her feet, the air itself vibrating with power. The first line of soldiers staggered, their armor glowing as if melting. Energy beams fired toward her, but each one shattered against the blazing shield of her fire. The human shielded his eyes, but he did not step back. He felt the heat on his skin, fierce yet strangely familiar, as though the fire itself recognized him. The alien commander shouted orders, but his voice was lost in the storm. She spread her arms, her voice rising above the chaos. "You call this a curse? Then you will see what your curse can do." The fire answered her call, and for the first time she wasn't afraid of it. The ruins blazed with firelight as her power spread across the battlefield. Soldiers staggered, their armor cracking under the pressure of heat they had never faced before. The air rippled, weapons melted in their hands, and still she stood, glowing like a living sun. The human shielded his face from the blaze, but his eyes never left her. Every pulse of light that burst from her chest seemed to sync with his own heartbeat, as if their lives had intertwined in a way neither could deny. He felt no fear of her power, only awe. The alien commander stumbled back, raising his shield to block the wave of energy. His voice was sharp with fury. "This is not strength, it is corruption. She is no longer one of us." Her eyes snapped toward him, glowing brighter than the fires she commanded. "No longer one of you?" she shouted, her voice carrying across the battlefield. "Then so be it. I am no longer yours to control." The soldiers hesitated. Many lowered their weapons, uncertain. They had never seen one of their own transformed in such a way, and the sight of her standing unburned in a sea of fire shook their belief. She was not just a soldier now. She was something more. The human stepped closer, his hand brushing her shoulder. The fire dimmed slightly at his touch, responding as though he commanded it too. She turned to him, her breath ragged. "It listens to you," she whispered. "The fire. It bends when you are near." He frowned, unsure of what to say. "Maybe it's not about me. Maybe it's about us." Her chest tightened. The fire surged again, but this time it didn't burn. It filled her with clarity. She understood now. It wasn't only her body that had changed. Something in their connection had awakened the fire itself, something deeper than bloodlines or species. But the commander would not let the moment last. He roared an order, and heavy weapons were brought forward, cannons glowing with unstable energy. The ground trembled as the machines locked onto her, humming with power strong enough to level cities. The human pulled her close. "Those will kill you," he warned. Her eyes narrowed, the fire coiling around her like a shield. "Then we will break them before they break us." The cannons fired. Blinding beams of energy streaked through the air, crashing into her fiery barrier. The impact shook the ruins, collapsing walls and sending shockwaves across the ground. Dust and stone flew in every direction. The human was thrown back, but before he could hit the ground, the fire wrapped around him, catching him like a hand of light. She gasped at the sight. Her power had moved on its own, protecting him. The fire didn't see him as an enemy. It saw him as part of itself. The beams continued to strike, but with each impact, her shield grew stronger. The glow spread beyond her body, forming wings of light that stretched wide, burning through the smoke. The soldiers dropped to their knees, some in fear, others in reverence. They whispered words she had never heard before. Chosen, ascended, untouchable. The commander, however, refused to bow. Rage twisted his face as he raised his weapon for one last strike. If she is not ours, then she is nothing. But before he could fire, she unleashed the storm. The fire erupted in a single burst of pure energy, brighter than the sun, tearing through the cannons and throwing the commander to the ground. His armor cracked, his weapon shattered, and for the first time, fear filled his eyes. She stood over him, her body still glowing, her voice low but unshakable. I am not nothing. I am fire, and fire will not bow to you. The battlefield fell silent. Soldiers stared, unsure whether to fight or surrender. And in that silence, the human stepped forward, standing at her side. Together they faced an army that no longer knew if it wanted to obey its orders or kneel before the power it had just witnessed. The battlefield lay in ruins. The cannons were nothing but melted husks, their twisted metal glowing faintly under the red sky. Soldiers who once marched with absolute certainty now stood frozen, torn between fear and awe. None dared to fire again. She stood at the center of it all, her body still glowing with streams of fire running across her skin like veins of light. Her chest rose and fell with deep, steady breaths. For the first time, she felt the fire was not trying to consume her. It was hers to wield. The human remained close, his presence keeping her grounded. Every time she felt the flames surge too wildly, she looked at him, and the power steadied. Their connection was undeniable now, even to those watching. The commander struggled to his feet, his armor shattered, his face dark with fury. You will destroy us all, he spat. You are no longer my soldier. You are an abomination. She met his glare without flinching. No, I am not your soldier anymore. I am my own. The soldiers behind him whispered among themselves. Some lowered their weapons, their discipline cracking. The humans saw it too, the fear in their eyes, but also something else. A question, a possibility. Before the commander could rally them, a sharp sound echoed through the air. It was not the roar of engines or the hum of weapons. It was a deep, resonant chime that seemed to vibrate through the ground itself. Her eyes widened. She knew that sound. The council had unleashed something greater than soldiers or cannons. They had called the judicators, ancient machines built for only one purpose, to erase what the council deemed dangerous. The ground shook as massive figures descended from the sky, their bodies forged from living metal, towering over the ruins. Their eyes glowed with cold blue light, and each step they took sent tremors through the earth. Unlike soldiers, they carried no hesitation, no fear. They had no hearts to sway, no loyalty to question. They obeyed only the council's command. The human's breath caught as he saw them. What are those? Her voice was quiet, heavy with dread. Judicators. They do not stop. They do not think. They only destroy. The machines marched forward, their movements precise, their weapons humming with deadly energy. The soldiers scrambled back, even the commander retreating to the shadows, unwilling to be caught in the path of the council's judgment. She felt the fire surge inside her again, hotter than ever before, but this time fear clawed at her chest. The judicators were not like her people's soldiers. They were built to withstand anything, even power like hers. The human stepped closer, his eyes locked on hers. Then we fight them together. Like before. She shook her head. You don't understand. Against them, even fire may not be enough. He placed his hand on hers, gripping it tightly. Then we'll find out, but I'm not leaving you. The flames pulsed, responding to his touch, brighter and steadier. She closed her eyes, breathing deeply, and let the fire flow through her. It rose higher, wrapping around them both in a shield of light. When she opened her eyes again, they burned like twin suns. The first judicator raised its massive weapon, charging with a sound like thunder. The ground split beneath its weight as it fired a beam of pure energy straight at them. The shield flared, the fire exploding outward to meet the strike. The impact shook the ruins, a shockwave ripping through stone and steel. Dust and debris filled the air. But at the center of the storm she stood unbroken. The judicator staggered for a moment, its glowing eyes flickering. For the first time, she saw it falter. A flicker of hope sparked in her chest. She turned to the human, her voice fierce. Then let them come, I will burn even their machines if I must. And as more judicators descended from the sky, the fire inside her roared to life, ready for war. The ruins shook as the judicators advanced, their heavy steps like hammers against the earth. Each machine towered above the battlefield, their frames gleaming with cold, silver light. Their eyes burned blue, unblinking, and their weapons hummed with a deadly rhythm. The alien soldiers who had once come to kill her now retreated into the shadows, unwilling to face what the council had unleashed. Even the commander, defiant only moments ago, stayed silent, his fear hidden behind clenched teeth. This was no ordinary execution. This was judgment. She stood at the center of it, her body glowing with streams of fire that coiled and sparked around her like living serpents. The human remained close, his presence grounding her, the flames bending whenever his hand brushed hers. She could feel it more clearly now. The fire was not simply hers. It was theirs. The first judicator struck. A blast of raw energy cut through the ruins, tearing stone apart and splitting the ground in a line of molten glass. She raised her hands and the fire erupted outward, colliding with the beam. The explosion shook the air, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. Dust rose like smoke, but when it cleared, she was still standing. Her chest heaved, the fire pulsing like a second heartbeat. The human gripped her shoulder, his voice steady despite the chaos. You stopped it. You can stop them all. But she shook her head. Every strike cost me. This fire, it grows wilder. If I lose control, I could burn everything. Then don't fight it alone, he answered. Let it burn through me too. Her eyes widened, fear cutting through her resolve. If it touches you, it could destroy you. But his gaze was firm, unwavering. Or it could save us both. Another judicator fired, and this time she did not resist. She let the fire flow, spreading through her veins and into him. The flames leapt outward in a wave of gold and red, wrapping around them both like wings. The beam crashed into the shield, but instead of struggling, the fire absorbed it, devouring the energy and growing brighter. The judicator staggered back, its glowing eyes flickering. The others paused as if even their machine logic struggled to understand. Her body trembled, but the human's grip anchored her. Together they pushed forward, the fire shaping itself into a storm that lashed out at the machines. Bolts of flame struck the judicators, cracking their metal shells, bending steel like clay. The soldiers watching whispered in awe. None of them had ever seen a judicator fall, but one by one, the machines stumbled under the storm. The commander finally shouted, desperation breaking his voice. This is impossible. No power can break the judicators. Yet before his eyes, one collapsed, its body splitting apart in a burst of molten light. Another followed, its blue eyes dimming into darkness. The battlefield that once belonged to machines now glowed with fire, and at its center stood a warrior and a human, bound together by something no council could command. She gasped, her knees buckling, and the human caught her before she could fall. Her eyes blazed, but her voice shook. It is too much. The fire, it was never meant for me alone. It came from you. The words hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. The fire had not awakened until his hand had touched her. It was not only inside her, it was born from him. The judicators regrouped, their weapons charging again, but now she knew the truth. Her power was not a curse. It was a bridge, a bond between their two species, something stronger than machines or armies. She looked at him, her voice fierce despite the exhaustion in her body. Then we fight as one, you and I. No council, no machine, no empire can stand against that. The flames surged higher, brighter than ever before, and the judicators moved in for the final clash. The battlefield was alive with fire and smoke. The judicators advanced in formation, their weapons glowing brighter than the stars above. Each step they took shook the earth, but still she stood, her body burning with light, the human at her side. Her chest rose and fell in sharp breaths. The fire inside her had grown too strong, pressing against her bones, desperate to escape. She feared if she released it all, the fire would consume everything, the machines, the soldiers, even him. The human's hand tightened around hers. His voice was steady, though his eyes carried the weight of the moment. "You're not alone, don't hold it back, let's face this together." Her lips trembled. "If I lose control, I will burn you too." He shook his head firmly. "Then burn with me. Better together than apart." Something inside her broke at his words, not from weakness, but from release. She stopped resisting. She let the fire flow freely, not as a curse, but as a bond. It surged through her body, then into his, and together they shone brighter than the battlefield could contain. The judicators fired all at once, beams of raw energy slicing through the ruins. But instead of breaking, the fire absorbed them, twisting the energy into new strength. Flames spread outward, not as destruction but as light that washed over everything. The soldiers shielded their eyes. The commander dropped to his knees, whispering in disbelief. Even the judicators faltered, their glowing eyes flickering as the fire began to unravel their ancient cores. One by one, the machines collapsed, their massive frames sinking into the ground with thunderous crashes. At the center of it, she and the human stood as one, their bodies outlined in golden flame. The fire that once burned wildly now flowed like a river, calm but unstoppable. It did not consume, it remade. When the last judicator fell silent, the battlefield grew still. The soldiers stared at her, not with hatred now, but with awe. They had seen machines fall, power undone, and a warrior transformed into something beyond their laws. The commander rose slowly, his voice weak but defiant. "You are not our kind anymore. You are something else. The council will never accept you." She stepped forward, her fire dimming but steady, her eyes fierce. "Then the council must change, or it will burn away with the past." The commander had no answer. He lowered his gaze, defeated. The human turned to her, his face lit softly by the glow still surrounding her. "It's over," he said, though his voice carried more wonder than certainty. She looked at him, her chest still warm with the fire they shared. "No, it's only the beginning. This fire, it is not meant for war. It is meant for life. And it began with you." Her words hung in the silence, a truth neither of them could deny. Their bond had changed more than just themselves. It had shaken empires, broken machines, and shown that life between their worlds was possible. The soldiers, one by one, lowered their weapons. Some knelt, not in surrender but in recognition. They had seen power they could not explain, born from a human and one of their own. The human smiled faintly, exhaustion in his eyes but hope in his heart. "Then let's build something new. Together." She nodded, the fire glowing softly beneath her skin like a heartbeat. For the first time since the war began, she felt no fear of it. The fire was not a curse. It was their bond. And as dawn broke across the battlefield, the galaxy itself seemed to change. Not with conquest, not with destruction, but with the first spark of something far greater. Unity.